What was your reaction and what's your opinion now that you've had a few days to think about no Francis Ngannou in the UFC anymore?
It's hard to believe anything Dana White says because after
Yeah.
that interview, I left with so many questions. He said that Francis Ngannou was scared to fight opponents in the UFC, that he wanted to take more money to fight lesser opponents. You said it yourself, he's the baddest man on the planet, right? Like this
Mm-hmm.
guy has fought everyone in the UFC at this point, and he's been calling John Jones's name for the past like 2 or 3 years when he's just sat in the sidelines. He's the heavyweight champion who came into that surreal gunfight with a torn ACL and still chose to fight him and beat him in ways that we never expected. Yeah, we're listening to Dana White's side of the things, and he's saying that Francis Ngannou is scared, but I didn't buy any of it.
I think it was Eddie Alvarez tweeted, and it was exactly my thoughts. It's like, really, UFC, that's the route you're going to go with the this is why
Yeah,
he's leaving. It's like the guy that literally has devastated the heavyweight division. He's the toughest man on probably the entire planet. You're going to go with Francis Ngannou, a guy we've seen finish guys within minutes on the octagon, is afraid to fight top end talent. And I don't think there's anything else left to say about it. I mean, what a despicable thing and stupid thing to say. It sounds like there was a couple things that he wanted to bring to the table and think there was maybe some negotiating room. Right to sponsorship, which Francis even said they've gotten screwed, which they 100% have when they removed whether it was Reebok or now Venom, not allowing them to have any sponsorships on their shorts or anything. That's an extra moneymaker, which isn't necessarily important for a guy like Ngannou, but it's important for those undercard guys or the guys that are even fighting on the main card in the earlier fights. The health insurance, which he was pushing for, it sounds like across the board, not just himself. And then having a fighter advocate in board meetings, which I don't really know the whole circumstance in which that would work. But what I view that as is it's basically like a step one towards having like a players association or a union for the fighters.
so I see Francis as a man of integrity. He wants to bring change to the UFC. You and I have talked about it in the past. If there's one person in the UFC who can possibly change it for the good, it would be Francis. He's the heavyweight champion of the world, and the baddest man to ever walk in the octagon. And we said that if anyone could do it, it'd be Francis. But it's like Francis said in an interview: if we wait 10 more years to make this change in the UFC is going to be substantially even larger than the fighter, and things are never going to get done.
It's a funny world we're in now where Francis Ngannou and Jake Paul are suddenly the biggest representations for fighter rights and benefits and guarantees and stuff like that. Just within the last year, when he won that title, we were talking, is this the greatest heavyweight? Is this the Mike Tyson version of this is what the UFC's Mike Tyson could be if Francis Ngannou is just a great champion and goes on this run of knockouts. And we never really got to see it going. Are you in on boxing matches of Francis Ngannou?
100%. What
I am
what
too.
what's sad? What's sad though is he did lay out his plan with the UFC. Like the whole
Mhm.
boxing thing wasn't an issue. He said that he wanted three more fights in the UFC.
Yep.
He wanted John Jones, Stipe, and John Jones, and then we would get boxing.
Yep.
So it's a little sad that we're probably not going to see that anymore. But 100%, I'm excited for Francis Ngannou to box. It's going to be a tough task because boxing is completely different than MMA. Whatever Francis does, honestly, if he goes to a different organization, the PFL, Bellator, I am still going to watch. I'm a huge Francis fan,
Yep.
but I want to see him box.
I guess ultimately it's UFC's loss and you know Francis Ngannou's gain since the money doesn't really matter to him and he wants to leave his mark in different ways. So
Do you think
uh
it's repairable, Corey?
to
Like,
go back
do
to
you
the
think
UFC.
there's a way that they compromise, knowing the three things that he wants, and knowing the money they already offered, apparently a boatload of money. Do you think there's any way he could go back at this point?
I think it definitely can, but it's all because he's the bigger person in this thing. Nonetheless, we'll be Francis fans. We'll still be watching the UFC because they do have great fighters. It's upsetting to see it reach this point.